So today we are talking about managing users and permissions. Okay. Now, when I'm talking about managing users and permissions, I have to understand that there are different levels of the components that we have in Salesforce. Okay, and several things. Like if we talk about the database, in the database you have objects, then you have fields, then you have records. Records is the actual data, right? If I talk about the user interface, I have apps. Under the apps, I have tags, and I also have the page layouts. Correct. So these are the things which are available under the user interface. Okay. So when I say controlling the access to permission, controlling the access to components or controlling permissions, I'm talking about. In fact, I'm talking about all these things. So you need to control users access to objects. You need to control users access to fields, to records, to apps, to tabs. For everything, you'll have to control the permission, right? Whether user will have access to all the objects or will he have access only to a certain set of objects. Whether the user will have access to all the fields or will he have access only to certain fields. Whether he will have access to all the records or will he have access to a certain set of records. So everything needs to be controlled in a way. Correct? Now, because there are so many things to be controlled, and if you try to do these things for individual users one by one, that will become very difficult for you as an administrator. So this is a core admin job. So if the administrator starts doing so many controls for each user individually, it will become too much of a task for the administrator. Correct? So for that reason, to ease out things, Salesforce has the concept of profiles. Okay. What is a profile? Profile is basically a collection of permissions. So you can create a profile, put all a set of permissions in that profile, and this profile can be assigned to a user. Got it? Now, how does this profile help? This helps because you can reuse the profile. You create a profile, give it to a salesperson. Okay. So whatever permissions a salesperson requires, put all those permissions in the profile, assign it to the salesperson. Now you have another salesperson, you have hired one more salesperson, you don't have to do the entire hard work again. Just go and give the same profile to the salesperson who needs similar kind of access. You hired one more person who needs same access. Just go and give the same profile again to the other person. Got it? So this is how you deal with profiles. What's a profile? Profile is collection of permissions which can be assigned to a user. As a user, you create a profile, put the permissions in the profile, assign it to the user. The same profile can be assigned to a lot of other users. Okay, so you will be working with the help of profiles, and with using the profiles, you will be assigning the same kind of permissions to multiple users. Right? So we don't go and give permission to individual. We put permissions in the profile and assign it to the user. For example, there is a company and there is a marketing team, so you can create a marketing profile. You can create a sales profile. You can create a pre-sales profile. Okay. So you have the option of creating what profile you want to create, and then pre-sales profile can be given to all pre-sales reps. Sales profile can be given to all the sales reps, and marketing profile can be given to all the marketing executives or something. That is, got it? Okay. Now, what all things can be allowed under the profile? What all permissions can be put in the profile? Under profile, you can define which all apps will be visible, which apps are going to be visible. which tabs are going to be visible. This also you can control under profile. Okay, which objects. Okay, but for object it's not just visible or not visible, because object is data, it's in the database, it's not the view part. App and tab are the view components, user interface component. So there you just need to control whether it's going to be visible or not. Object is not a data user interface component, it's a database component in the model layer. So here you will have to define permission whether the user will be able to see the data, whether he will be able to edit data on this object, whether you can create data here or you can delete data. Right? What level of permission you want to give? You want to allow the user to see the data in this object? You want the user to be able to edit or create? Do you want the user to also have the access to delete records? So for object you have to control permission at this level. What level of access you want to give to the user? Okay. For field, again, because field is in the database, it's a part of the data structure, you have the option of controlling whether the user will only view the data or he can edit. Alright, so these permissions, these are the permissions which you primarily put into the profile and then assign this profile to the users. Right, so let's have a look into the profiles. So if you go to setup, manage users, under manage users you have profiles. You will see that there is a list of standard profiles already available. So Salesforce by default has created a lot of profiles and given it to you so that you can use it for users, for your users. If you are happy with these profiles, you can use one of these for your user. If you are not satisfied with what these profiles have, you can always go ahead and create a custom profile for yourself. And there you can control things the way you want. Right? And how will you understand what is a profile assigned to a user? If you go to manage users and click on users, here you will see the list of users. And corresponding to each user, you will have the profile defined. See? So the current user has a system admin profile. Current user is learning account. It has a system administrator profile. Okay. If I go to profiles and see that there is a system administrator profile. It's on the next page, I guess. Here it is. System administrator profile. Right. Now click on this profile and you will see that you are able to see. On the profile, it's all about permissions. As I told you, profile is just collection of permissions. See, app permissions, which all apps you want to make visible to on this profile. Right now, all the apps are visible. If you want, you can remove visibility of a few apps from here. Got it? Scroll down a little further. You will see tab permissions, tab settings. Which all tabs you want to make visible. Default on means it's going to be visible. Default off means it will be not shown by default, but the user will have the option of viewing the tab by clicking on this button. Default on, if a tab is default on for a profile, the users of that profile will get to see the tab here on the panel. If it is default off, The users will not see the tab here, but they will have the option of viewing the tab by clicking on this. Alright. There's one more option which is called tab hidden. Tab hidden is, if you make the tab hidden, then the tab will not be visible to the users of the profile anyhow. The users of the profile will not be able to see the tab anyhow. Correct? So that's the thing. Default on, default off, and the tab hidden. Here on this. So if you scroll down a little further, you will find there are there's a big list of general user permission, admin permissions, and then there are these object permissions. So in front of each object, you have the option of selecting read, create, edit, delete. What level of permission you want to allow them for a certain object. You can select that here. Right? Should the user only have the read permission, or he should also be able to create records under this object? That can be selected. But you would notice one thing, that this is not editable. Like you were able to edit the app and tab permission, you are not able to edit this object permission. This is not editable because Salesforce does not allow you to make changes in the standard profile for object permissions. It's a standard profile. Salesforce does not allow you to make changes, object permission changes on the standard profile. So if you have to make changes in this, you have to work with a custom profile. Standard profile will not allow you to do this. Alright. Now let's create a custom profile. You can just create a custom profile by cloning the standard one. If you come to a standard profile and if you click on clone, you can create a custom profile. Give it whatever name you want. Click on save. Now this is your custom profile. Click on edit. See, because it's custom profile, here you have the option of making changes. Got it? So for profile, we have seen we can control the permission of apps, we can control the permission of what all tabs will be visible, we can also control the permission of objects. In objects, it's going to be what level of access you want to allow to the users: read, edit, create, delete, right? And then comes your field, field. How do you control the access to field? Now, before that, let's understand why are we actually worried about the field. When I am able to control the access on the entire object, why am I worried about the field part? Sometimes it may happen that you want the user to see the data in the object, but you just want to hide one field. You don't want to hide the entire object, you just want to hide one field. Okay, for security reasons, one field can have confidential information. Let's say the customer email ID, phone number, social security number, bank account number. One field, you can have a few fields where you have stored some confidential information and you don't want your end users to see that. Correct? In that case, you can give a view permission on object, but you might want to hide a particular field. And this concept is called field level security. This concept is field level security. What's field level security? Field level security is where you just put restriction on one particular field, right? Okay. So now what you have to do is, for field level security, just need to go to profile. For field level security, you don't need to click on edit. When you are on the profile, don't click on the edit button. Just scroll down a little. You will see field level security. So field level security can be like making one field, hiding one field from the user. For example, I want to hide the uh, contact email ID, right? For this profile, I don't want the users of this profile to see the contact email ID. Email ID field is there in contact object. I don't want them to see the email ID. So you just have to come to field level security. First of all, go to that object, contact object. Click on view because email ID is inside contact object. So click on view. The moment you click on view, you will get to see all the fields of contact object. Now you have the option of clicking on edit and making the email field visible or not visible. Save it. Right. So now I have removed the visibility of email field from this profile, which means users of this profile will not get to see the email field. I have hidden the field. Got it? Field level security also allows you to make a certain field read only. Sometimes you might not want to hide the field, but you might want to make it read only so that the users of this profile cannot go and edit the field. So in that case, you should make it read only. Alright. So this is how you are going to control these permissions on the profile. Now, just a couple of things about the profile. One, first is a user must have a profile. So you cannot have a user without a profile. So you'll have to assign, one or the other profile to the user. It's a must, mandatory. Okay. Second is uh, user can have only one profile. So first point, a user must have a profile. Second is user can have only one profile. He cannot have multiple profiles. So you cannot go and assign 2, 3 profiles to the user. The user should have only one profile. Alright. Okay. Now, uh, now I have a small question. Okay, before the question, anyone has any doubt understanding this much, the profile concept? So profile is collection of permissions. Permissions are put in the profile, and this profile is assigned to the user. Now, what the user will be able to do, that depends on his profile. Got it? And what if you have to control or restrict anything from the user? Go and make changes on his profile. That much is clear. Any questions? Anyone?
Yeah,
Please let me know. Yeah.
I have a question.
Hmm?
Let's say I made a custom field like salary and something.
Custom
Will the
field.
admin be, yeah,
Hmm.
will the admin be able to, give the permission sets for that field also?
Yes. Yes. Because that's also a field, right? Custom field or standard field, that is also a field. So
I
permission can
mean,
be controlled on that as well.
yeah, if we make a custom field, will that be updated to the admin that I have created this particular field?
If you make, sorry,
Yeah, I made the custom field called salary. Will that be updated to the admin that I created the particular field?
that will not be updated to the admin when you create it, but administrator will get to see the field. Correct? And when he gets to see the field, he will have the option of controlling the access to that. If you come to this particular profile, if you come to profiles, and if I go to the profile that I was editing, don't have custom objects in this. But if you just go and you don't have custom objects created on this developer org, but if you go and create a few custom objects, or if you have created a few custom objects in your developer org, you will see that after standard object permissions, you have custom object permissions also, right? So it's not that the admin will be notified after you create every field, no, but yes, administrator will get to see all the fields here while controlling the access to profiles. Correct?
Jeet, I have a,
Yep.
uh, when we do, you're talking about profile settings.
Hmm.
So profile settings cannot be edited for standard objects, right?
As standard object permissions, only object permissions.
Object permissions, sorry, standard object permissions. Whereas, my question was, when you use field level security,
Hmm.
can standard fields be edited? No,
Can
only
standard
custom
fields?
fields.
Yeah, field level security is
Field,
allowed. On standard profile, field level security is allowed. Only object permission
okay,
is not allowed. So in field level security, you can hide some standard fields also. There's no problem with that.
okay, all right.
Right? Okay. Now we have understood, about the profile. Now there's a very small question that you will come across a lot of times. You have created a profile. Let's say you have a sales team. You have 10 people working in this. All of them need same kind of permission. You created a profile for your sales team. You assigned it to all 10 of them. Right? Everyone is working very happily. Till the time you got a requirement that one of these users needs to work with customer support team. So out of this 10, one user needs to work with customer support team for 2 weeks. Hmm? Now this is the requirement. Now he needs a few additional permissions. He needs to access a few additional objects. And the challenge is that only he needs to have those additional permissions. Other 9 people should not have those additional permissions. Now what are you going to do? How will you resolve it? There are 10 people in the sales team. Everyone has same access, same profile. Everyone is working very happily. Fine. I have a requirement that one person from the sales team is going to work on a special project for 2 weeks where he needs access to a few additional objects or anything else. Okay, let's say a few additional tabs. So basically he needs some additional permissions, but at the same time, my client wants that other 9 people should not get those permissions. Only this guy should get that permission. Now what will I do? If I put it in the profile, then everyone else will also get to see, right? Because the profile is common.
So you're going to set the permission settings?
Yeah, sorry, tell me again.
So probably you're going to set the permission settings for this single user where he will be having the access to the other two objects.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other thoughts?
Uh, Given what we have learned till now, you can create another profile for this particular user.
Right. Okay. Yes. So basically, again, if we talk in the context of what we have learned so far, you would think of creating one more profile. But the problem is that if you create one more profile, and if you have these kind of requirements, coming up, because you will have these kind of requirements coming very frequently. One person is working with customer support, the other person might be working with the marketing team, the third person might be working with the HR team. So eventually, you will, end up in a situation where you end up creating almost a profile for each user, right? Or you will have too many profiles. Again, if you create one more profile for the other user, the problem is the requirement is only for 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, again you will have to bring this person back onto the same profile, delete this profile. So a bit of challenge here. So for that reason, there is another option which is called permission set. Okay, what is permission set? Permission set is also collection of permissions, but this is optional. Okay, like profile is a mandatory collection of permission which is assigned to the user. Permission set is optional. A user may or may not have any permission sets. Okay. So permission set is primarily used for giving any additional permissions to the user which others in the profile don't need. If everyone in the profile needs a certain permission, then simply go and edit the profile. But if you have requirement where only one user or only two users need some additional permissions, then you go with the permission set. Correct? Okay. So permission set is also a collection of permissions. You put permissions into this and assign it to the user. So let's say my user needs permission to access cases. So all that I have to do is I just have to go to permission sets, create a new permission set. There are no default permission sets available. There are no standard permission sets. You just have to create a new permission set. Give it this name, click on save, put the permission, what permission you want to put object permissions, right? So go to object settings, which object? Cases object. I want to allow him to see cases, which is by default not able to see. Let him see the read, create, delete permission, and let him also see the tab. Save. So in this permission set one, I have put permission to access cases. Okay, so anyone who does not have the access to cases through his profile, and if I assign this permission set to that particular user, he will get the access to cases. This is like an add-on. Correct. Now set one has access to cases. You just have to go to users, go to the user to whom you want to allow this permission, scroll down a little, you will see permission set. After this general information about the user is over, you will get to see permission set assignments. Click on edit assignment and allow the permission set to the user. Available permission set, enabled permission set. Move it to the enabled permission set. Click on set. Now this user has the access to work on cases, and only this user has this permission. Other people in the profile do not have that access. Clear? Let me know if anyone has a question or doubt here. Is it simple?
So,
Mhm.
Jeet, did I say what was correct, or I think
Yeah.
did I?
No, you said what
Yeah,
was
because
correct, but the reason why I did not tell you that whatever you are saying is correct because I did not want others to get confused at that time.
right. Because even I didn't know. I thought like
No, that's
just
correct.
from the
Correct,
just
correct.
from the data modeling perspective. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. But not permission setting, it's permission set. Uh,
Right.
correct.
I didn't know the exact
Terminology.
object which you use. Yeah.
But no, that was correct. But the reason why I was not saying that it is correct at that time is because others did not know about permission set at that time. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So that is the thing. So basically control all the permissions through the profiles, and whenever you have this exception, till the time you do not have this requirement of exception that one person or two people in the group they need additional permissions, till that time you are absolutely fine with profiles. Don't even think about permission set. The moment there is a requirement that some people need some additional permissions, whereas others do not need that, then just look into the permission set concept. Got it? Very, very simple thing. Now, so we have talked about objects, fields, apps, tabs, all these things we have talked about. Now let's come to the actual uh, thing, data. Well, I'm controlling access to tabs and apps and all these things. Don't you think we'll also need to control access to the data? If you have 100,000 accounts listed in your company, in your company's CRM, just think, from a practical point of view, will you want everyone to see all 100,000 records? No matter they need that or they don't need that, they are working on it or not working on it. From the security point of view, from the data exposure point of view, will you be comfortable exposing all the data to all employees in the company? Yes, no. If you are running a company,
No,
you have a
no.
business, you have purchased data from different vendors, 100,000 records you have, and will you want to show all the data to everyone? No, right?
No, absolutely not.
So you might have, let's say, you might have 50 sales reps. Okay. Now, and you might have, let's say, 100,000 records, accounts, accounts or contacts. Okay. Now, each sales rep deals with 2,000 contacts. That's it. On an average. Sales rep deals with 2,000 contacts, 2,000 accounts or contacts. Whatever. Right? So I would ideally want that the person who is dealing with those 2,000 accounts or contacts, he should ideally have access to that much only. Because he needs to talk to them, he should see those 2,000. I would not want him to see all 100,000. In some of the cases, some companies might be very lenient or they might not be aware of how to use things, so they might allow access, or their process might need to allow the sales reps access to all the data. But it's not a very good thing, exposing so much of data to everyone from both the sides. One, your data is being exposed unnecessarily. Secondly, the person who's working on the data, that person also gets confused. If he actually gets a pool of 100,000 data, 100,000 records, he also gets confused. Life becomes easier for that person also if he just gets to see the data which he needs to work on. What will he do looking into everyone's data? Right? So efficiency wise also, this is a good thing to restrict the data access. Though a lot of companies will not do it or they don't do it because of various reasons, but this is something which is um, which is a very good solution, right? Which actually helps companies increase efficiency and keep the data secured also. So the data access. The next point is data access. Will everyone get to see all the data? Now, I was just talking about the profile. So I said we will create a sales profile. In sales profile, you say read, uh, edit, create, delete permission to the account. Let's say you have given read, edit, create, delete permission for account to the sales profile, which means they have all of them have access to account. They can all of them can see, edit, create, and delete records in account. Right? But the point is now I need that though everyone gets to see accounts, but I just want them to see the accounts that they are working on, the accounts that they are owners for, not allowing everyone to see all the accounts. That's where we are going to require sharing settings. There's another option called sharing settings. So when you have to control the access of the data, concept is called sharing settings. What is sharing setting? Sharing setting basically allows you to control the data sharing access. Okay. So under sharing setting, there is an option called OWD, org-wide default. Okay. What does this org-wide default do? This allows you to make your object as private or public.
What is the difference between permission settings and sharing settings, G?
Sorry?
What is the difference between permission settings and sharing settings?
Permission set is for allowing you permissions on the components of Salesforce. Sharing setting is about data sharing. If you are working on, let's say, your 2000 accounts, your 2000 accounts will be shared with me or not, that's sharing settings. Correct? Are you the only one who will see those 2000 accounts, or I will also see? That depends on the sharing setting. Right? So this is completely related to data. In profile and permission set, we did not talk about data anywhere. We were just talking about the components, objects, fields, tabs, apps, things like that. Okay, sharing setting is completely for the data. Correct?
Okay. Okay.
Now, for data access, you have the option of making the data of a certain object as private or public. Private means only a record owner will see the record. Public means everyone will see the record. Okay. So private is where only the record owner gets to see the record. Public is where everyone gets to see the record. Correct? So I was just telling you that you have 50 sales rep and you have 100,000 records. Would you want to show all the records to everyone? If you keep the account object as public, then everyone will get to see all the records. If you make it as private, then each sales rep will only see their 2000 records. They will not get to see the other set of records. So that's how simple it is. Where do you define this? You define it under the sharing settings. Where is the sharing settings? Sharing settings is under setup, security controls, sharing settings. Right? So if you see here, all the objects are listed and you have the option of making them public or private. You see this? We have all the objects listed here and we have the option of making them public or private. If you make something public, by default, see most of them are public. which means everyone will get to see everyone's records. But if you make it private, then only the record owner will get to see the data. So wherever you feel like that this data should not be, available to everyone, then make that object as private. And this is called org-wide default. Why is it being called org-wide default, organization-wide default? Because if you make a certain object as private, that will apply on the entire organization. Okay. So this sharing setting org-wide default basically works on the entire organization. Either full organization's data will be made private or full organization data will be made public. You do not have an option where you say that, okay, out of 50 people, for 10 the data should be private and for 40 data should be public. That doesn't happen. Correct? So if you have to make it public, you'll have to make it for the entire organization. If you have to make it private, you have to do it for the entire organization. That's the reason why we called it organization-wide default. So this has to be a default rule for the entire organization. Got it? Okay. So using the org-wide default, you will have the option of making the data private or public, whatever you want. By default, most of them are public. You have the option of making it private. Now, if you do this, again, you will have some exceptions. Okay. Let's say we have made the data private. Let's say we all work in the same company. We are all sales representatives. Okay. And we all have our own data. So Sudhir has his own set of 1000 accounts he works with. I have my own 1000 records I work with. Venkat works with his own set of records. Right. So let's say we all are working with our own set of 1000 records. And we don't get to see the other person's data because the data has been made private. The accounts is private. Now, what will happen? Let's say if I am going on a leave for 2 weeks. Okay, I'm gonna go for a holiday for 2 weeks, and the company wants someone else to look after my data, but my data is private, so no one else can see that. Okay, but the company wants Sudhir to look after my accounts because though I'm gonna be on leave, there can be certain queries or certain things that needs to be looked after in my accounts. So this is an exception. So access needs to be given to Sudhir to access my records. He should be able to see my records, but not everyone. So you cannot just go and make it public again, because if you make it public, then Venkat will also start looking into my records, which we don't want, right? That's where we define a sharing rule. What is a sharing rule? Sharing rule is a rule used to define exception to OWD or OID. OWD is applicable on the entire organization, but after applying the OWD, if you need to define certain exceptions, like the one that I just talked about, you can use a sharing rule. Where do you find the sharing rule? You find the sharing rule just below OWD. See? So for whichever object, let's say you want to define sharing rules for account, you can just go and define a new sharing rule. This is where you can define the exception. To or whatever name of the rule. Here you have to define whose data you want to share with whom. Okay. Let's say I am a VP of marketing. My data needs to be shared with VP of North America sales. Right. So select which records to be shared and select the users to share with. That's it. Whose records to be shared with whom. Now, important thing is that this sharing rule thing will come into picture only if you have made the data private. Correct? If the data is public, then anyhow everyone is able to see all the records. and there is no concept of defining a sharing rule. Why would I define a sharing rule when the data is public? Sharing rule comes into picture for an object only if you have made the OWD for that object as private. Then only you will have this kind of an exception. Got it? So if you have made the data private for a certain object and you want to allow access to someone, then you use sharing rule. Read this line carefully. You can use sharing rules only to grant access to data, not to restrict access. You cannot use a sharing rule to restrict access. So if something is public, you cannot go and restrict the access for one person. Public will be public. Everyone will have access. Anyone who has access to that object will have access to that record. But if it is private, but you want to do a special permission for some people to access it, then you can use the sharing rule.
This
Clear?
sharing rule applies to standard objects as well.
All the objects. All the objects.
All the
So it doesn't matter standard or custom. Not only sharing rule, OWD also. Both of them apply to all the objects, standard as well as custom object. Got it? So in data sharing, there are just these two concepts. One, whether you want to make the data of an object as public or private. That depends on your business process, that depends on the kind of data that you have in that object. If you keep it public, then you don't have to worry about anything. You have just kept it public. So everyone anyhow has access. But if you make it private, then sometimes you will have this requirement where someone needs access to some data which he does not have. So in that case, we will be dealing with the um,
Quick question, Manjeet. Going back to the permission set, the example what we gave is a customer needs to have an access to customer sales records or the data. So only that specific that specific salesperson needs to have that data. So that's the example what we gave for the permission set, right?
hmm,
So he if he has been given the permission set or the permissions to access that particular object, for example, if he is getting an access kind of a access to one of the objects contacts or something, contacts or whatever we have,
hmm,
for example, contacts. And if contacts uh, is public as per the sharing settings,
hmm.
then how do we go about restricting other people um, looking into it? I'm not sure. Like, did that make sense?
I don't know, but I did not understand your question correctly. But let me clarify. I think I am getting what you are trying to ask. So the point is, first of all, let's understand permission set profile is all about the components, whether someone has access to a certain component or not. That's being controlled in the permission set, whether you have access to contact or not, right? Sharing setting is
Correct.
controlling what all data you will get to see inside the uh, that particular object. So permission set will decide whether you will get to see the data in contacts or not. Okay.
Correct. So the permission set is basically you're using permission set to give uh, access to that particular salesperson for contacts. Okay, contacts tab,
Mm,
and contacts tab has this particular data related to the contacts,
mm,
right? And the data related to contacts will have sharing settings, right?
mm,
And if you are restricting access only to this particular person of this particular salesperson, and if the data in the contacts is public,
mm.
how you are justifying that this specific salesperson is only able to access this data, not any other person?
Yeah, I still don't get your question. See, if the data is public, what does public mean? If the data is public, then everyone gets to see the data. Everyone who has access to contact gets to see the data. This person is no exception. He's also a part of public, right?
Right. So as per the previous example, you said like you want access being given only to this salesperson for this contacts. So
Hmm.
then the sharing settings should be private.
Again, see, why are you mixing two things? Why are you mixing the permission set with the sharing setting? There
I'm
he
trying
needed
to.
access, right? Okay. Just keep your question aside for 2 minutes. Try and understand that. He needed access to contact object, object as in the table, contact table, right?
Correct.
That's one thing. He needed access to that. We were talking about an exception on that. It's for everyone to understand. He needs access to contact object. That's a different statement, right?
Right.
You need a visa to get into US. Okay, you do not have the visa, you want to get into US. That's a different concept. Now once you come to US, you cannot pick up anyone's car and start driving, because car is a private thing. There data is like that. Once you have got into US, does not mean that you will have access to all the cars. Correct? Car is a private thing there. Or maybe US government says that cars are public, anyone can pick anyone's car and start driving. That is another thing. So that's permission set gave you to the visa to enter US. Your sharing setting is telling you whether you will be able to pick any car or drive or not. Got it? Now that depends on the rule which is inside this. Right? So that's what I'm trying to tell you. If we are talking about contact object, permission setting allowed him to come to the contact object
Mm-hmm.
or any object. Now for the records, there is another rule. Either there is public, so we are not defining any rule for him. We have made the data public or private. Correct? Will you define different rules for different user? No. For entire object, again, OWD for contact will be either private or public. Correct? If it is public,
Right.
everyone is getting to see all the data. This gentleman will also see the data. What is his fault? If it is private, then he will only see the data which he owns, in case he owns any records in this. Now you tell me. Does that make sense?
Okay. I think that answers my question. Yeah.
Got it? So these are two different things. Someone accessing an object is completely different from someone accessing the data. You may have access, so that's what we were talking here. See, if all these 50 people have access to the contacts object or sales account object. But if the data is private, then a certain sales rep will only see the data that he owns. But at the same time, if the data is public, if the OWD is public, then all of them will get to see all the records. So from the
Yeah, that's
permission
correct.
side, from the profile side, they have same permission, same profile. But still, what data they will see depends on OWD. Does that
But
make sense?
on a practical note, is there a kind of a relationship between permission sets and the sharing settings?
No,
Because
no.
all these objects consist of data, right?
On this,
I mean, whatever objects we're talking about, contacts, opportunities, leads, everything consists of the data, right?
no, again, tell me again. What consists of data?
Like when you talk about contacts, opportunities, leads,
Right,
the
they all have data,
the
correct.
dashboard we have, Salesforce, and everything is nothing but data.
Everything
So
has data, correct.
so so that's how I was trying to relate. So
No,
for
the
the data,
point.
you have the access permissions, I mean sharing settings, private and public.
Hmm.
For the permission sets, it's a read. I think the read is it the read execute, right?
Right. So see, your profile will say, forget about permission set. Just come to profile. Your profile says you can delete accounts. Okay.
Yeah.
Your profile says you can delete accounts. Now the next question is whether you can delete any account or you can only delete the account that you own. That's also important, right? That's what I'm trying to explain. So these are two different things. One is you have the permission of deleting accounts. The next question will you be able to delete my account or you can only delete your account? That is also important, correct?
Right, right.
Whether you will delete only your account or you will be able to delete my account also, that depends on OWD. If OWD for account is uh, if OWD for account is public, then you can delete my account, which is not fair. Okay, but if OW is private, you can only delete your account, which is a good thing. Correct. So while in profile you are just giving permission for deleting accounts. You have never specified whether this person will be able to delete whose account or not. That comes into the OW field setting. The same way, delete account is one option that I use. The same way, edit. You can edit account. Can you only edit your accounts or you can edit my account also? Can you see your accounts or you can create my accounts also? So that whether you can do it only for yourself or you can do make changes on my data also, that depends on OWD. Correct. So
Okay.
profile is just gonna give you the generic permission. Now whether you will be able to do that on everyone's data or only your data, that is your OWD.
Okay.
Fine.
Yep.
So that's the reason why this public private. So data access is different from the profile and permission sets. In profile permission set, we are not talking about data anywhere. We are just talking about the components like object, field, tab, app. We start talking about actual records in the sharing settings.
Yeah. I mean, when you say profile, profiles are related to roles. Like when you say profile, is the sales profile and inside, right?
Okay, let's not get into one more thing role right now. Let's just restrict to what we have talked so far, and let's see if we can think of questions on this. Again, that will be more confusion. So till the time we are not getting into roles, let's not get into there.
Okay.
Okay, if you try, see, the first thing is try to keep things very very simple. It's the most simplest thing in the world. People who are not even trained, they can also manage the profiles and all these things. There are two things which we'll have to do. First, we don't have to relate one thing with other. Like you are trying to find a relationship between what is the relationship between permission set and the sharing settings. We don't have to worry about that part. If there is a relationship, you will get to know after some time. Second is you should try and give yourself a bit of time. Try to go and do certain things and figure it out. That's also one thing which helps. Right? So we don't have to relate everything. Relating everything, you will be in big trouble. Gradually, if there is any connection between things, you will definitely get to know. But at the time of understanding the concept, please don't mix up things. Then you will be confused. Why did this happen and this and not happen in this? All right.
Right.
So for now, the concept is we have profile permission sets for controlling permissions to the basic components of Salesforce, where you define permissions like whether the user will have access to a certain object, whether the user will see a certain tab, whether the user will see a certain app, these kind of permissions. Sharing settings is where the data sharing will be controlled, whether someone who has access to account will get to see all the accounts or only the accounts that he owns. That's basically in the sharing setting part. Okay. Any other questions? Anyone? Any doubts? No? We're good? Okay. So there's one more concept under this, which is basically the admin permissions. Okay. Some people need additional permissions, admin permission kind of stuff. So we'll continue to discuss on this. We'll continue to discuss on this particular permission thing, and we will talk about the admin permissions in our next session.